Island Bridge and Turnpike Authority will now come to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the meeting, which was held on. Oh, public comment, okay. There's not that. I always forget that. Right? Yeah, I won't say anything. Anyway, next is to approve the minutes of the meeting of August 23rd.
Motion.
Peter. Discussion, hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Next, draft for the fiscal year 2023 audit financial statements.
I'll take that one, I guess. First of all, I'd like to introduce Erica O'Leary. She's a partner with Markham, and she'll bring you through the presentation. We don't plan on going through the audit that I included in the package, but obviously if you have... Yeah, please. But if you have any questions, we can answer any questions that you may have. And you can cover all the engineering stuff there. Before I turn it over to Erica, I just want to mention 4 things briefly. First of all, record revenue, $46.5 million, which is fantastic. The second thing is we have a strong and solid balance sheet that will set us up well for the future. The third thing is the audit was done not only on time, it was done early, and it was done on budget. And lastly, I just want to mention that the audit was again done 100% remotely. That's worked well for us for the last couple of years, and at the end of the day ends up saving us some money. So having said all that, I'd like to turn it over to Erica.
And I'd just like to add that Erica's been with us for a number of years, so she knows us well also, which is nice.
And you have a great team here, so that helps with the audit process. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I think everyone has the slide deck I'm just going to go through, and also the draft of the financial statements. So basically, we're going to go through the draft financial statements for June 30th, 2023. I'll go through the audit results and the required communications for you guys. If you have any comments at all, just let me know. Then we'll go through the required completion procedures and timeline to issuance, which we're very close. So everybody knows we go through the audit process every year, and basically we're hired to express an opinion on the financial statements. During the audit, we do not test 100% of the transactions. It's really built on working with the team here, interviewing them, looking at the internal controls over the financial statement areas, and then we build our procedures from there. It includes sampling. It's based on materiality, on the numbers of the financial statements every year. So ultimately, we're looking at those internal controls to design the procedures. We don't opine on the effectiveness. If when we did that review of the internal controls, if anything came to light that rose to the level of a material weakness or a significant deficiency where there was an issue, we would have to disclose that in the report, and there are none to know, so that's a good thing. And just, you know, the auditor's report is a clean, unmodified opinion, so that's the first part of the report that you'll see in there. There's a lot of language in there. They changed it over the past few years, but the opinion's at the top, so it's pretty clear to the readers. So the next part, during the audit, we also do a fraud risk assessment. So we also interview members of, you know, the board as well. We rotate in different people every year. We interview people in the organization to see if they have any knowledge of anything. There is nothing that came to light that we were made aware of. Also, through our work, we did not find any irregularities or anything fraudulent that we noted. We also do, as a part of that testing, reviewing non-standard journal entries, so not system-generated journal entries. So if someone would go in and manually override something, we look at, you know, samples of those, like if they were rounded dollar amounts made on certain days of the week. We pull samples, and then we look at the support, making sure that they're reviewed and approved and they make sense. So those are basically the things that we look at from that standpoint. During the audit, we also identify significant risks. So with an audit, we always look at management override controls, because with management override controls, you know, things can be manipulated. So that's always a risk in an audit. So we always take that into account. And then revenue recognition, because revenue is the biggest, you know, income statement item. So we always look at those pieces and do a lot of extended procedures in that area. So the financial statement review, I'm just gonna go over the changes this year. So obviously GASB's they want to keep us on our toes. So there's a new GASB this year, which was GASB 96, which is the subscription-based information technology. So if you remember last year, GASB 87 came into play with the leasing standard. So this is a new one relating to subscription-based items. So the team here pulled an analysis of all the items you have. It didn't result in a material adjustment, so that's on your balance sheet noted to be that subscription-based leased asset really related to IT-driven items. Doesn't relate to maintenance agreements or anything, it's really just related to the IT subscription. So that's been recorded and that's in your notes this year as well. Going down the pike, GASB has a few new coming out. GASB 100, I don't see a real impact to the authority on that one. That's really related to accounting changes and error corrections. And then in 2025, compensated absences will roll out. It's enhanced disclosure over that. So not a real significant adjustment to the statement of net position, but there'll probably be additional disclosures there. And then just from the statement of net position, page 17 and 18 really shows you the details in the draft. And just looking at it at a summary level, so total assets this year at June 30th, 2023 is about 370 million compared to last year about 368 million. So pretty consistent from year to year. But in those buckets, if you looked at the statement of net position last year, there were some changes in some balances, obviously due from into primary government. There were a lot of changes there with the changes in the RIDOT tolling ending, those balances either being paid to Turnpike or else paid off based on the collections that were made. Obviously investments turned around, so that was a good thing. So your investments went up this year and you'll see the increase in that on the statement of revenues and expenditures. And then also accounts payable is usually due to a timing of when the invoices are taken in and when they're paid by the authorities. So a slight drop off there. Last year it was about 804,000. This year it's about 562,000. But the biggest change, and then obviously bonds payable, you're paying it down according to the agreements. The biggest change that I saw was really the due to primary government, paying back that amount. It was about 7.1 million last year. This year it's about 40,000, so that's a good thing. And I think, and at the end of the day, 6/30/23, the net position of the authority is about $159 million. Broken down into different buckets, obviously net investment in capital assets is the biggest piece of well actually not the biggest piece, the restricted bond covenants is the biggest. But your net investment in capital assets is about 47.8 million. And then restricted for bond covenants is about 110.5 million. And then the remaining falls to the unrestricted bucket, which is about 512,000. And that's really the statement of net position. So the next page would be page 19. And then on the slide deck, it's really on a summary level. If we look at the operating results, operating revenues increased about 7.3 million, going up, so good increase in traffic volume. Also the increase in bill by mail. I know I'm getting those sometimes because I forget my transponder.
Well, you're the one.
And then the non-Rhode Island Easy Pass increase as well. So like Jeff said, the operating revenues of 46.6 million versus last year of 39.2 million. Gas tax slightly up, not a huge increase there. Your operating expenses, 27.6 million versus last year at 25.5. Obviously, the cost of personnel services and things like that go up year over year. Then we look in the non-operating section. Again, like we said, the investments recorded a good turnout this year. So you'll see that swing from last year. You have investment income versus having a loss in the prior year. Overall change in net position this year is about 15.6 million. Compared to last year, it was about 5.9. So it's in the positive and it's going the right direction. And then overall bringing you to that ending net position of 158.9 million. And then one thing I do like to point out is when you look at your cash flow, a lot of activity in here, page 20, obviously the authority is generating cash flow from operations, so that's a good thing. And obviously reinvesting it in capital and financing activities. And then for next. So that's really the financial activity in a nutshell. There's a lot of information in the notes, which start on 22, go all the way to the back. The only significant change this year would have been that the addition to the GASB 96 disclosure. Everything would be updating it from the current year numbers. Not a lot of language change because of the standards staying pretty much the same. And then obviously after you look at the notes and things, there's also the supplementary information required by the state. So the state schedules and the format they want to see the items in. And then the travel and entertainment schedule is back there. And then you'll notice in the back on page 48, this is your governmental auditing standards report. So that was the report that I referenced. If there was anything that came to light with a material weakness in internal control or significant deficiency, it would be disclosed in this report. And there's nothing to note, so that is a clean report. Also, there's compliance and other matters. So obviously, we look at compliance items with laws and regulations. Nothing came to light that needed to be disclosed into that report. And that is basically the draft financial statements. If there's any questions, I can take them, and then I would just go over the communications with you. So obviously with every audit, we like to have the required communications with you charged with governance. And obviously talking about in the audit report, it talks about your responsibilities, management's responsibilities, and then our responsibility. Obviously, we talked about not opining on internal control, using it to design the tests. There are no significant changes in any of the accounting policies and how things are reported here. So that all is consistent. There were no disagreements with management. The audit went very smoothly. It's a great team out here. They work very well together. We get all of the information very timely, which helps, you know, perform and get that timeline met for the state.
Did I understand that you're totally remote then? The voice
Yeah, so it's been remote, I don't know, the last 3 years? Yeah. Tony's remote, so I mean, she gives us a lot of information. We do a lot of Zoom calls. And then if we needed to come out, we would, but they've been able to upload everything we've needed, so it's worked very well. As we noted, no fraud, irregularities, or illegal acts were identified during the audit process. And we like to make you aware that from an independent standpoint, we are independent of the authority, so we have to make sure you're aware of that. And then during the issuance process, we would get a signed rep letter that would be dated the same date as the report, and then we can do a final issuance. And to our knowledge, we're not aware of any consultation shopping on the treatment of any type of revenue recognition or leasing standard items with other accounting firms. So if we were aware of that, we would let you know. And then in your financial statements, obviously there's estimates built into them, so we just like you to know, you know, some of the estimates that are in there, you have, you know, the allowance for doubtful accounts, what's considered collectible, the useful life of fixed assets, that's definitely an estimate on how the depreciation is calculated, the electronic tool liability. So those are all disclosed in the notes, and just to be aware of those. And then basically the road to issuance. So we got emails from Auditor General's office. They're pretty much good with the draft. They didn't really have a lot of comments. They just want a detail of the calculation of the net position. And we're waiting on DOA, Department of Administration. So once they give our approval, we are through quality review on our end. We just got our final comments. We were talking to Jeff about a few wrap-up items. So once we are all set with the state, we can update our subsequent events, get a signed rep letter, and I think we'll be hopefully before 9:30, maybe even the next week or so.
Thank you, Anna. Any
you.
questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. accept the audited financial statements as presented. Motion by Karen, second.
This is just accepting them, right?
Just accepting.
Yeah, because, I mean, approving them would be
Well, accepting the financial,
just
statements.
receiving,
Right.
acknowledging our receipt.
There you go.
There you go. Second.
Thank you for the clarification.
That's all right.
We have a second discussion. None. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the
Aye.
ayes have it. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is virtual net metering contract.
Yep, I'll take that one. This is the same type of agreement that we entered into last year. Basically, what I'm asking approval for is to enter an agreement with the City of Providence to purchase some of their net excess virtual net metering credits. Basically, it works is they'll give us a credit on our invoices of $125,000, and we each month as the bills come in for $3,000 or $4,000, whatever, we use up that credit. In return for that $125,000, we pay the City of Providence $93,750. At the end of the day, it'll save us this year about $31,000 on our utility costs. So again, the agreement is virtually identical to the one that we entered into last year. And that's it.
Do I have a motion to approve the board to go into an agreement with the City of Providence? Motion by Peter, second by Karen. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Next item is the land survey, state of Rhode Island property adjacent to Bayview Drive, Jamestown.
I'll take that one. My apologies for being late. I mixed up bus stop coverage this morning. So we have up underneath the west approach of the Newport Bridge on Bayview Drive, we have what we call an annex, maintenance annex, and we have property on both sides of the street. The side of the street on the land side of the water has some partial fencing, but we would like to fence the entire property in because we have our maintenance annex building there, we have a lot of equipment there, we operate out of there. So we'd like to eventually make this a secure site with controlled access gate, because right now it's kind of a free-for-all, and luckily the way the neighborhood is up there, it's not like we've had any issues yet, but we recognize we'd like to secure it. So the first step to do that is to perform a land survey to make sure that we know where our bounds are, so we're not putting a fence on anybody else's property. So that's really the main purpose of us going out to get a quote on survey services. But at the same token, while they're out there doing a survey on that parcel, I'd like to get the parcel on the other side of the street, on the water side survey, because looking at the GIS mapping in Jamestown, the fence lines don't seem to match the supposed property lines that are in the mapping. I'd like to get a better feel for those property lines as well. Partly because with a lot of the upcoming work on Newport Bridge, with the grant works coming out and everything, the contractor's going to need some laid out area, and there might be an ability to shift some of the fencing over there to increase some of that area and use it as laid out yard for future projects coming up in the next few years. So we decided to lump that in because when the survey is out there, once they find benchmarks, they can expand that survey at very little cost. So really, this request is to approve a proposal that Crossman gave us, a local engineer, for $9,450 for the actual survey work, and allow an allowance of $3,000, up to $3,000 not to exceed, to install granite property markers at the cost of $200 each. And the reason we're asking for the upper limit of $3,000, we're not exactly sure how many markers we'll need, because there may be some existing once they get out there and clear some of the brush in some areas.
Thank you, Aaron. Discussion, questions?
Motion approved.
We have a motion, do I have a second? Second by Karen. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Eric.
Sure.
Next is the power supply battery replacement purchase order.
I'll take that one as well. So RIPA maintains and operates an on-site server room. In this server room, there are two Eaton model PW9355 uninterruptible power supplies. Eaton also provides scheduled service to both units. And during the last maintenance cycle, they identified that one UPS is approaching 6 years in service with the existing batteries. They recommend replacement of all of the internal sealed, their VRLA and voltage regulated lead acid batteries every 5 years to maintain the health and longevity of the unit. So rather than risk, even though the batteries are still in service, rather than risk failure of the batteries, we went out and received 3 quotes to replace these and to upgrade the harnesses and the trays that are all connected to the batteries. So we received 3 bids ranging from $10,805 to $12,854. Eaton Corporation themselves were actually the lowest quote in the amount of $10,805.34, and our recommendation is to approve the purchase order in that amount to replace these batteries.
Discussion.
Just a question, just a curiosity, is there any salvage value on the older equipment?
Well, there's always scrap value with batteries. The trays and harness upgrades, I don't really know whether there's salvage value in that. I would imagine that because the lead acid batteries, the salvage would be in the lead of the batteries. So they would take ownership of that, and that price, that savings would be reflected in the quote.
That's it, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Further questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion, second by Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Eric. Next is the Newport L Bridge compression link evaluation, jacking installation increase in authorized funds for Etna Bridge.
Yep, I'll take that one again. There's a lot of information in the board sheet, and we've talked at length about the compression link, so I'll abridge this somewhat because a lot of the description in the sheet you've heard a couple of times. So we've been operating under an authorized amount of $100,000 for Etna to get working on this, and while it has taken some time to get some preparation together and to design some quick deck to be installed, we're at the point where we're actually seeing some spend on that $100,000, and we have a better feel for a lot of the costs as we've spent the last couple of months figuring out what type of crane we need, what type of other equipment that might need to be rented, safety boats, and the durations of the work. So I had WSP go through and look at what Etna has spent to date, which is $31,456. That's what they've invoiced. They've actually spent more than that as of now, but it just hasn't been invoiced yet. But we are aware of all of what they've spent, and WSP has projected forward based on conversations between RIPA and Etna on what the anticipated costs are for equipment. And their new estimate, the initial one was really just to get us going until we knew what we were doing. The new estimate is $188,188. Again, that's an estimate. And the recommendation is to approve an additional $100,000 to the initial authorized amount of $100,000. Again, this work is on a time and materials basis, and this would revise the total contract amount with Etna to not to exceed $200,000.
Discussion.
Just a quick question. Where do we stand schedule-wise? I'm concerned about the weather coming in. Just generally, where are we schedule-wise?
So they're up there.
What do we accomplish when, I guess?
They started, they mobilized Monday on site up at the maintenance annex. They got everything ready to go. They started on the bridge yesterday. Tomorrow is going to be the biggest pick for this work, which is going to be basically a pick of a 16 by 16 piece of assembled quick deck. That's going to require us to move the barrier first thing tomorrow morning over to the westbound side, and we will have one lane each direction because they need 2 lanes for the crane, the outriggers, and the swing of the crane so that the counterweight is out into another lane. We've put a press release out Monday morning regarding this. In the press release, we also talked about that the need to take an eastbound lane closure for the remainder of the work, which is approximately about a 2-week duration. At the end of that 2 weeks, all the quick deck will be in place. We should be able to have the nut off on the pin and be able to start to evaluate what the damage is, whether it can be replaced with just a pin or whether we have to actually design some buildup of steel. So it's about a couple weeks as it started
So
this week.
in terms of evaluating it, we should be okay weather-wise?
Absolutely.
Depending on what we find, we don't...
Depending on what we find, we've got to then need to step back, that will be the additional process. We don't know what we're gonna find, so I hate to guess and ask for authorization on anything.
Right.
We really have no idea yet what we will find. We have several options out there, but the cost to fix could vary widely.
Right, got
So,
it. Awesome.
Is this all daytime work?
this is all daytime work, yes.
Further questions?
Move to
Discussion?
approve?
We have a motion to
Second.
approve. Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much, Eric.
Sure.
Next item is the automated electronic tolling system conversion and roadway improvements for the Claiborne Pell Bridge, Newport Bridge, Toll Plaza Construction Contract and Construction Administration Services.
All right, I'll take that one as well. This was the project that we've been working up to out in front of the building here. WSP finalized the design of this system, which includes toll gantry replacement and shifting of the highway to realign it to meet current design standards. We advertised the project, and we actually extended the bid period for a week or two, just based on concerns by contractors in order to get all the required pricing from subs. We opened bids on August 31st, and they ranged from $10,759,840.60 to $14,223,639. 3 bids were received. J.H. Lynch was the apparent low bidder. So WSP then performed a bid review and analysis. As part of this bid review, they also interviewed all 3 bidders. We had a few questions in mind that we wanted them to ask all of the contractors, and just to satisfy our curiosity on their thought process on some items. We were satisfied with the answers we received from all the contractors. And Lynch also had some outstanding DDE paperwork to submit. They have since submitted all of that. That's going over to the state for approval. We have no reason to believe that they wouldn't approve it. The state's new DDE percentage, disadvantaged business enterprises, 15% split, half, 7.5% to minority, and half to women business-owned enterprises. So they've met both of those. And WSP has recommended that we approve this project with Lynch. In addition, WSP is putting together their CA services, Construction Administration Services, task order for our review and approval. In the meantime, just to keep this project going, because we have such a regimented schedule on this to meet installation of the gantry in April of next year, they've already started to approve RFIs and work at some of that. So I'd like to recommend that we pre-authorize an amount not to exceed $50,000 towards this CA services, which will be much more than that in the end when they submit it, just to allow them to start billing against it. The final task order proposal I will take to the board in October for your consideration of approval, and that's it. Those are the 2 recommendations.
See.
I have a motion and a question, but go ahead. We have a motion.
I have a question. By the way, good job on nailing the final bid coming in your estimate being dead center of the range of bids that you're gonna.
Yeah, we actually were surprised. We were wondering if it might come in high, because it's just a wild card.
You're just good. Just accept it as that. The schedule for this? What's the schedule?
Yeah, so the gantry will be installed in April of '24.
Okay.
That allows Amovis to then install their equipment and test it, and the go-live date on the gantry is in June. The demolition of the plaza would be the last phase, which we're not worried about that. At that point, it's all offline work. But the main goal is April gantry installation, go live in June, and then after that, we just finish up any punch list work. And then
Great. The construction management contract with WSP, was that part of their original contract?
It was not.
For
It
this?
was not. We only went through design and bid phase services.
So this would be a change order, or would it be?
It would be a whole new task order. It would be
new-
entirely new task order specifically for the construction.
Okay, and they are on MPA to be able to assign the task order to them.
So they were selected by RFQ initially.
Yeah,
For
okay.
design, bid phase services, and
Yep.
the ability to do CA services.
Okay, so that was included in the
It
RFQ?
was. Yes, it
Okay.
was.
All
I
right.
will most likely, I've been talking with a couple of firms, I'm going to probably get an independent resident engineering firm, and that I'll probably pull off of our on-calls, because we have many qualified on-calls from our past solicitation, new solicitation for on-calls for a 5-year contract.
Have we taken a look at, now that you've got a lot of projects going, have we taken a look at what the cost of these construction management and resident engineering services are costing as a ratio to the construction contracts, and made an assessment of maybe considering bringing people on staff to do this?
That's something we're looking at, especially in light of the grant work,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how we're
Yeah,
gonna
right.
manage all of this work. This one's really the big one coming out of the gate, for the next 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Because then we've got Mount Hope dehumidification coming online, and then
There you
eventually
go.
the deck rehab on that bridge,
So
and
you-
then all the projects here.
Now that you're developing, a 10-year outlook, it gives you a better idea as to what the kind of sustained need for these services are going to be. And it might be worth taking a look at whether or not you could fill those more efficiently and have better control if you had it in-house. But that's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Just a question.
Yeah.
It was mentioned a number of times, milestone 1, but I don't think here, I think you probably mentioned it, but I don't know that it was in the document. What is milestone 1 that Lynch was concerned about meeting the timetable?
That was the April date to get the gantry installed. So their initial concern was the ability to get a fabricator on board and be able to get the materials designed by shop drawing and then fabricated and delivered on site in time. We've since mitigated that concern based on talking with the other contractors and also talking with WSP, who had reached out to fabricators of their own, research. That information was shared with Lynch just so that they have other options in order to find a fabricator that could deliver it on time. So that concern has really been mitigated at this point.
Right. Unsuitable soils is one of the categories that was kind of wildly different amongst the contractors
Yeah.
in your estimate. Who makes that call as far as what's undesirable and needs to be disposed?
It would have to be tested, so it would be tested for certain contaminants. It could be oils or, just things that were buried years ago that could have been, that shouldn't have been. We don't anticipate that we'll run into much, if any, so that's why they had estimated at a 5% quantity based on the overall excavation that they anticipate. Lynch bid on the higher end of that, but the quantity is 450 cubic yards, so if that were the final quantity, if we use the final quantity, the entire amount, the differential between the engineer's estimate and their bid was 40,000. My guess is they're probably figuring there might not be a lot of it, so they'd like to get paid something, so they bid a little higher on it.
I noticed it was wildly different than you.
Yeah, there was another bid of $80, there was one of 36.
Right.
The write-out weighted average unit prices was $20. It could have been based on a higher quantity, I'm not sure on that.
So
Yeah, $20.
testing is a part of the process then?
Yes.
That's in the contract?
It'll be part of the, that, any soil will go off-site, they test before they install.
Okay. All right, thanks. I'm good.
Sure.
Other questions?
Oh, and also to clarify, most of the soil on the excavation gets reused on-site as it is because of the cut and fill of the
Okay.
job. So we had to talk about that as well. That will also minimize the potential quantity that might have to be disposed of.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion seconded, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, Larry. Next is the contract 1906, Deanna Fleming, additional funds for back office systems replacement project.
So, our existing tax store for consulting services under contract 19-6 with Deanna Fleming for the back office project. Requested budget supplement not to exceed $75,000. This will allow our consultant to continue to assist with the implementation and migration to the back office system. In February 2020, Deanna Fleming well as our decision to transition permanently to all electronic tolling. Tolling resulted in many AET-specific business rules and workflows being designed and implemented that were not in our existing business rules. They also estimated that they would receive and evaluate 3 vendor bids. We received 4 during the procurement process. In addition to that, we also spent extra time. We had a bidder protest on someone who did not make the back office contract. So that took a little bit of time. In addition, during the design phase, Gannett Plumbing's tax proposal assumed that during the design documentation, Evovis would submit at least 2 reviews. Gannett Plumbing went through at least 3 reviews, resulting in over 400 comments to be addressed by the contractor Evovis, which basically resulted in no less than 3 reviews, and sometimes there were 4 or 5 on certain volumes, and there's about 13 different volumes. In order for us to receive the adequate documentation of the back office, we felt strongly that all of these comments had to be addressed. The original go-live date was supposed to be June of 2023, and has since been extended to December 2023, and then this extra time was not accounted for in its proposal.
Thank you,
Kitty, Mayor?
Kate. Yeah.
Yeah, just a question on the spreadsheet, looking at the remaining work in the budget. It seems that a lot of this work is done by really high-level people, and not much of it is delegated to junior staff. Is this all high-level review that in effort?
So we mainly been
So this is
delegated
justified?
to, Michael Cole is probably the highest level, and right now he's actually, they're also the consultant for the hub migration. He has minimal hours with us, and that will probably have to do with the IAG Easy Pass Group interoperability. But the main people we're working with are Mark and John, and they have been people that have been dedicated to this project since the beginning. So Michael is the highest level one, and he rarely is, I think I saw him twice, maybe.
Well, when we look at engineering contracts, we look at, okay, the high-level managers of minimum hours, and there's delegation to other staff that kind of minimizes the cost, but you're saying this is all high-level review needed?
I keep telling Lori, and it was actually comforting, we went to a NETA meeting, New England Tolling, that's where all the New England tolling agencies meet together quarterly up in Massachusetts. It's nice to see we kind of stick together when it comes to the Easy Pass group. We all have to do with plate types, different things. It was nice to hear that both Maine and New Hampshire are experiencing delays with their lane projects, their back office projects. I keep trying to tell Lori, I don't know any back office project that has gone off on time. You're migrating an immense amount of data and information, and I also tell her lightly that they don't always go well perfectly. I've been through a few of them. I've been through 3 of them actually. It was comforting to hear that other people are going through the same thing, but the Mark and John, the 2 main people dedicated to this, are the people that we need on this project. They're the experts. Gannett Plumbing.
I just try to understand
Yeah.
this culture, because, I'm coming from a different location.
No, Easy Pass, I would say, not so easy.
Further questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Peter, second by Karen. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Next, ongoing engineering projects. Harry?
Sure. So I'll go through this list really quickly, because we've touched on a lot of this in some of the previous action items. The final design for AET. This will remain open, this contract for now, because we have an outstanding piece that's still being worked on, which is the architectural treatment to the gantry. We pulled that from the original contract because we didn't want it to slow down getting it out to bid and getting the project underway. So that's kind of followed its separate track, which there's funds left in the final design contract with WSP that are for that purpose, so that's why this will remain until that's completed. And we'll put out a separate contract to bid for the architectural treatments at a later date. Mount Hope Bridge humidification, 30% design, that's ongoing, we're over halfway done. Actually well over that by now, they'll be submitting another invoice shortly, I'm sure. We have documents in hand that we're reviewing for the airflow test on the cables. We'll be putting that package out to bid to get a contractor on board in order to perform that. Compression link phase 1 work, we discussed that already, we're up there working now. And ATMS bridge safety and video analytics, there will be more to come on this project. We're still evaluating the system. In full disclosure, we're not sure where we're going to end up with this one, but our testing continues, and I'm sure that there'll be more discussion in the future on this one. Safety barrier feasibility study for Mount Hope Bridge and Jamestown Horizontal Bridge. This was the first task order that we entered into with Atkins towards the feasibility study on 2 bridges. That one's ongoing. We had a meeting just yesterday with Atkins and went over their status on it. Everything's progressing on schedule. We just entered, you approved a safety barrier feasibility study task order last month for the Newport Bridge and Sakana River Bridge with Atkins. So I've added that sheet in here, but really they're just getting going on that one since they got the notice to proceed on that. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
Questions?
The architectural treatment for the Pell Bridge AET. Just trying to understand, the contract that was awarded to Lynch will build the basic structure and create the infrastructure for Immovis to install their equipment on and make it active. The architectural treatment will be cost over and above that.
Yes.
What are you projecting the additional cost of the architectural treatments as?
That's a good question. As they progress the further design of that option that was voted on last month, we'll start working with them on what types of materials and overall, just because we want to control the cost of it. On the gantry overhead, the horizontal overhead will be some sort of a metal screening that'll have the colors printed on it, but allow wind to pass through as well, so you don't have a full wind load on it. We're allowed up to 50% based on the structural design, 50% openings.
Is there a reason that it was divorced from the original design and construction of the gantry itself?
Yeah, it would have had the potential, if we were waiting for that one component so that everything else moved forward quicker.
Yeah.
All of the civil work and the structural work. So we really wanted to get that out to bid and get going on it. There's a lot of work that has to be done immediately, including the rehab of structure E, lane shifts and everything.
Yeah.
That, if we had waited for that one piece, it took a while to get the architects mobilized. One, they had trouble getting even to an agreement with, so we had to...
I don't understand, an agreement with, about what?
To work for WSP as a sub-consultant. So we had 2 architects.
So there were logistics with the subcontractor, the design consultant.
In the beginning, that was a holdup. Yeah, we had two architects, local, one here in Jamestown, one in Newport. They couldn't come to an agreement with the one in Jamestown, so we moved forward with the one in Newport. We were comfortable with Newport Collateral. They did the work for DOT on the Sakana River Bridge.
Yep.
They've done a lot of other local projects.
What do we expect that the consultant fees are going to be? We don't know about the construction costs, but what are the consultant fees?
They're already built into the final design task order.
Okay.
They're already built in. Yeah, we don't have any additional. In fact, the cost for the architect was built into that as well as a sub. That's why that final design task order will stay in place.
So how much? What was the bid for the basic gantry construction?
I don't have the bid in
No, I mean
in front of me.
14 million.
Oh, the total bid for the contract
No,
is
10 million.
10.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have an expectation of what the architectural treatment is going to be?
We're not sure, but I can't imagine it's going to be.
What do you have it budgeted at?
That I will have to look into the budget to see what they had that piece at.
Yeah.
And see if they have separated out. I think that they carried a lump sum number in the initial budget for the gantry, and I mean just plain gantry. So we have to go back and look at what Lynch bid on the gantry structure, and then parse the 2 out.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is, I mean, it'd be nice. We voted on an agreed upon design theme, but it'd be nice to know what it's gonna cost, to see whether or not the push is worth the shove. I mean, it'd be nice to have it look pretty, but if it doubles the price of the gantry, you know,
We
maybe not.
we have stressed functionality
That's right.
and safety over beauty from the beginning.
And
On
cost.
this aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
All right.
And
So-
WSP has been very mindful of that.
Right, and any treatments to it?
I mean, I love architects, but they tend to get carried away, you know.
It's true.
So, all right, okay.
They draw
You'll-
pictures.
you'll keep us
They draw the
informed.
pictures and the engineers make it work, right?
You
Just
keep
gonna
it
say-
us informed.
Said by the engineers in the room.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
We'd spoken before, but I get comments frequently about the rideability of the structures. And I know in the main project on the Newport Bridge, that's taken into account on the deck rehab. But on the Mount Hope, I think you told me you have a plan for addressing the rideability on the Mount Hope Bridge. Maybe you
We-
can share that also.
We do, we're working on deck repairs, mindful that we have a full rehab of the deck on Mount Hope coming in the near future. Next couple of years, we'll be in design on that. But we have that project in the works. We're out to bid on it. We just had some discussions over the past couple of days over when the work could start. The work on Mount Hope will require lane closures, a one-lane closure at any given time. And initially, it was in the contract to try to do those during the day. However, in discussion with the restriction on the timing, the production would be better at night, which is how they did the last contract. Aetna ended up working at night under their last contract out there because they have a longer window to work. And they actually got, we talked about production amounts, they got 100 square feet of production on average per night of repairs versus when they tried doing it during the day, they only got 20. So it was a stark difference in production. So we talked just over the past couple of days that we are probably going to revise the contract language to require night work on Mount Hope. Believe it or not, based on the production, we'll probably get lower bids. Normally, you would get higher bids to require somebody to work at night, but based on the production, I think the opposite will happen in this particular case. So the timing of the work on Mount Hope, we'll figure that out, but that's what we're looking to do. We issued an addendum yesterday that extended the bid period for that project by 2 weeks, so that we can make that required change, put out the addendum by the end of this week, and then allow the contractors to reconsider.
Good. I'm glad to see that progressing.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
sure.
Next, the executive director's report.
So I'll make this quick. Federal funding, we've had a bridge investment program debriefing scheduled. That's coming up. We have had a RAISE 2022 debriefing, which took place. We have our RAISE submission for the Mount Hope Bridge dehumidification project pending in RAISE 2023. That project, by the way, was awarded the Government Sector Innovation Award by Providence Business News, and some of us will be going up to Providence tonight to celebrate that and receive that award. So,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Federal, the $10 million that we're receiving in ARPA funds to fund the feasibility study on 2 of our bridges for safety barrier. That agreement, we are a subrecipient to the recipient, which is RIDOT. That agreement is now signed up as of yesterday. So all good. Customer service, we did have extended hours, Thursday evening hours again for our customers. Much appreciated, it seems, by our customers. We're still analyzing the data to see, how we will operate on a go-forward basis. In addition to that, as Katie mentioned, we recently attended, one Easy Pass meeting. There's another one coming up. We have new members in the Easy Pass group. The Windsor-Detroit Bridge is coming on board with Easy Pass, so even more work to do in places that are exchanging files in the Easy Pass system. Transportation funding alternatives, we're participating in the initiatives that relate to what's to come in the future in terms of motor fuel tax revenue. Eric has already mentioned the plaza demolition, which goes along with the new gantry going up in April and the go-live date of June of '24. And Eric and I are heading out tomorrow afternoon to go to a summit, Transportation for Life conference that's put on by the New York State Bridge Authority in Poughkeepsie. It examines all aspects of the concept of suicide from high places, including bridges. So we will be attending that all day. We'll be leaving tomorrow and attending that all day Friday with, again, all different aspects of that topic. And the next board meeting is scheduled for October 18th of this year. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori.
Just one question.
Yes,
Mark.
yes.
I'm requesting that maybe for next month or sometime soon, that we take another look at speeding on the bridges, just staff-wise. Again, I get comments all the time about issues, and I know that it happens all over the state in all situations, but that particularly, if we could ask the staff to take a look at that, and also to combine that with the effectiveness of the state police arrangement that we have in regard to speeding, or just generally in terms of safety. Ask that to be considered for next month.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion, seconded.
Second?
All good. Have a great day. Thank you. Great job.
Yeah.